Welcome to the terrifying and intricate world of Resident Evil, one of the most enduring video game franchises. For nearly 3 decades, this franchise has redefined the survival horror genre. However, its expansive narrative, non-linear releases, and evolving storyline often leave even the most dedicated fans confused about the precise chronological order of events. This video aims to dispel such ambiguities, providing a definitive and meticulous timeline of the core Resident Evil game series. The pre-outbreak era, the seeds of catastrophe, 1919 to 1998, the genesis of ancient and core roots, early 20th century and 1960s. The Resident Evil timeline, in fact, traces its origins much further back than many realize. Its true beginning dates to 1919, when Mother Miranda's daughter died from the Spanish flu. This personal tragedy prompted Miranda to begin horrific experiments on the inhabitants of a nearby European village in a desperate search to resurrect her daughter. This starting point establishes a much deeper, more mystical and personal root for the bioorganic horrors, beyond what was initially understood. This highlights that Umbrella, while central in the early games, is not the ultimate source of the bioorganic threat, but rather a highly complex continuation of a more ancient, personal, and almost mythological quest for biological manipulation and the overcoming of death. This creates a deeper, more thematic understanding of evil in Resident Evil, suggesting that the motivation for creating monsters is an ancient and recurring human flaw, not merely a corporate drive. The seeds of catastrophe were sown not only by corporate greed but by primal, desperate grief. In the 1950s, Mother Miranda met and mentored Oswell Spencer. Spencer, leveraging Miranda's knowledge, along with Edward Ashford and James Marcus, later discovered the progenitor virus in West Africa. This foundational virus became the basis for all subsequent bioweapons. The Umbrella Corporation was officially founded in 1966 by Spencer, Marcus, and Edward Ashford. It served as a front for their clandestine bioweapon research, exploiting the progenitor virus for profit and power. The notorious Spencer Mansion in the Arklay Mountains, a central site for early outbreaks, was commissioned by Spencer in 1962 and completed in 1967. Designed by architect George Trevor, he and his family later became tragic victims of Umbrella's brutal experiments within its walls. Edward Ashford died in 1967 due to the progenitor virus, and his son, Alexander Ashford, inherited the family's leadership. Early viral development and key projects, 1960s to 1980s. A pivotal moment occurred in the 1970s when James Marcus successfully combined leached DNA with the progenitor virus, leading to the creation of the T-virus. This marked a significant leap in the development of controllable bioweapons. In the 1960s, Project W was initiated with the goal of creating exceptional individuals through viral research. Concurrently, Alexander Ashford began Project Code Veronica in 1969, aiming to create a superior successor to the Ashford lineage. This project culminated in 1971 with the birth of genetically engineered twins, Alexia and Alfred Ashford. In the 1980s, Alexia Ashford, a genius but deranged individual, developed the highly potent T-Veronica virus. She first tested it on her father, Alexander, who transformed into a grotesque creature known as Nosferatu. Alexia then infected herself with the virus in 1983 and entered cryogenic sleep for 15 years, aiming for the virus to fully mature and integrate with her body, thereby achieving ultimate control over its effects. Following the assassination of James Marcus by Albert Wesker in 1988, an act orchestrated by Spencer, William Birkin's influence within Umbrella grew. During this period, he developed the powerful Hunter and Tyrant bioorganic weapons, BOW, and received Spencer's approval to begin work on the highly dangerous G-Virus project. The clandestine Nemesis project began in 1991, an ambitious endeavor to combine an NE-alpha parasite with a tyrant, aiming to create a more intelligent and relentless BOW. Pre-outbreak tensions, 1990s, mid-1998. Throughout the 1990s, Umbrella's corporate influence deeply infiltrated Raccoon City, establishing strong ties with the local police chief and funding public infrastructure projects, effectively controlling the city from within. Future key characters, Chris Redfield and Barry Burton, joined the Raccoon City Police Department's Elite Heiress, Special Tactics and Rescue Service unit in 1997. Billy Cohen, a former Marine, was arrested and sentenced to death in 1997 for the massacre of 23 African villagers he did not commit, setting the stage for his fateful encounter with Rebecca Chambers. The meticulous details of Umbrella's decades-long research and development reveal a corporate structure inherently designed for self-destruction. The relentless pursuit of increasingly dangerous and unstable viruses, from the progenitor virus to the T-virus and then the G-virus, coupled with ruthless internal power struggles, such as Marcus's assassination by Weskier, and the development of increasingly potent BOWS, Hunter, Tyrant, Nemesis project, created an environment where a massive and uncontrollable outbreak was not an accident, but an inevitable consequence of their business model. Umbrella's deep embedding within Raccoon City effectively turned the city into a ticking time bomb, making the Raccoon City incident a predetermined catastrophe. This indicates that every new virus or BOW increased the risk of containment failure. The deep integration into Raccoon City meant that any large-scale failure would impact the civilian population. Thus, the Raccoon City outbreak was not a random event, but the logical and tragic culmination of decades of unchecked and unethical scientific and corporate actions. The seeds of catastrophe were not only sown, but meticulously cultivated within the very foundations of Umbrella. The Raccoon City Saga, the beginning of the end. The Arkley Mountains outbreak, July 23 to 25, 1998. The timeline of the Resident Evil games effectively begins on July 23, 1998. James Marcus, now revived and fused with the Queen Leech, begins his revenge against Umbrella by infecting the Ecliptic Express train with the T-virus. Rebecca Chambers, a member of the STRS Bravo team, finds herself on board the infected train and is forced to ally with Billy Cohen, an escaped convict. They battle through the infected train and a derelict Umbrella research facility, ultimately confronting and killing Marcus before Albert Weskier deliberately detonates the lab. Rebecca then proceeds towards the Spencer Mansion. On July 24, 1998, the T-virus, spread by the Queen Leech's attacks, infects the Arkley Mountains. The STRS Alpha team, comprising Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, and their captain Albert Weskier, is dispatched to investigate the missing Bravo team. They are attacked by Cerberus dogs and take refuge in the Spencer Mansion. Inside, they discover the horrific bioweapon experiments conducted by Umbrella. Chris is aided by Rebecca Chambers, while Jill is helped by Barry, who is temporarily manipulated by Weskier. Weskier, acting as a double agent against STRS and for his own nefarious purposes, unleashes a dangerous T-virus tyrant. The surviving STRS members manage to escape by helicopter as the mansion self-destructs. Immediately following their escape from the mansion, the remaining members demand a full investigation into Umbrella. However, their pleas are ignored, and the STRS unit is disbanded. This forces Jill Valentine to begin her own investigation in Raccoon City, while Chris Redfield travels to Europe to pursue Umbrella's activities. The Raccoon City incident, September-October 1998. Shortly after the Arkley Mountains incident, Umbrella's relationship with William Birkin deteriorates. Umbrella dispatches a team, led by Hunk, to forcibly acquire the G-virus from Birkin's underground lab in Raccoon City. During the confrontation, Birkin injects himself with a G-virus sample, transforming into a grotesque monster. In the ensuing chaos, T-virus vials are spilled and consumed by rats, which then infect Raccoon City's water supply, initiating a widespread urban outbreak. The outbreak begins to engulf Raccoon City around September 26, 1998. Jill Valentine is already in the city, investigating Umbrella. To eliminate any remaining STRS members and evidence, Umbrella deploys its ultimate bioorganic weapon, the Nemesis T-type. Jill and fellow STRS officer Brad Vickers attempt to escape Nemesis, but Brad is killed. Jill reluctantly teams up with Carlos Oliveira and the UBCS Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service unit. Jill is eventually infected by Nemesis. Concurrently, on September 29, 1998, rookie police officer Leon S. Kennedy arrives in Raccoon City for his disastrous first day on the job, while college student Claire Redfield enters the city to find her missing brother Chris. They are quickly separated by the zombie horde. Claire encounters William Birkin's young daughter, Sherry Birkin, who has been infected with the G-virus, prompting Claire to seek a cure. Leon forms an uneasy alliance with the enigmatic agent Ada Wong, who claims to be investigating Umbrella but has her own hidden agenda. Both protagonists navigate the RPD police station, the sewers, and a secret underground laboratory, surviving encounters with the severely mutated William Birkin. Claire successfully develops a vaccine for Sherry. Leon faces Ada's betrayal as she steals a G-virus sample and then seemingly dies. Leon, Claire, and Sherry manage to escape before the facility self-destructs. The Raccoon City incident culminates on October 1, 1998. Carlos Oliveira successfully cures Jill Valentine. They realize that the U.S. government intends to launch a strategic missile strike to completely obliterate the city and contain the outbreak. Jill and Carlos escape Raccoon City, but not before Jill finally defeats the relentless nemesis in a brutal final confrontation. The post-Umbrella era, Global Bioterrorism, 1998 to 2013. Umbrella's Fall and New Threats, 1998 to 2004. Several months after the Raccoon City incident, Claire Redfield travels to Europe to find her brother Chris. She is captured by Umbrella and transported to Rockford Island, run by Alfred Ashford while his sister remains in cryogenic sleep. Claire escapes captivity but finds herself in another T-virus outbreak. She attempts to escape the island with her new ally Steve Burnside, but they are forced to stop at an Antarctic outpost. At the same time, Chris Redfield learns of Claire's capture and travels to Rockford Island, where he finds Albert Wesker alive. Wesker has gained superhuman abilities from a unique strain of the T-virus and no longer works for Umbrella. After escaping Wesker, Chris travels to Antarctica to rescue Claire. The siblings are unable to save Steve, who sacrifices himself for Claire. Chris and Claire eventually avenge Steve by killing Alexia, who had been revived and transformed into a monster. In 2003, the Umbrella Corporation faced bankruptcy due to legal prohibition of operations in the United States, ultimately leading to its collapse. In fall 2004, Leon S. Kennedy, 6 years after the Raccoon City events, travels to Spain to rescue the U.S. president's daughter, Ashley Graham, from a rural cult called the Los Eliminados. There, Leon encounters people controlled by mind-controlling parasites and uncovers a sinister conspiracy involving old acquaintances and the series' primary antagonist, Albert Wesker, as well as Ada Wong. The Rise of Bioterrorism and New Organizations, 2005 to 2013. Resident Evil Revelations, which takes place between the events of RE4 and RE5, explores the aftermath of Umbrella's bioweapon development. Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, now agents of the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, travel to the Mediterranean to combat the use of the T-Abyss, a new variant of the T-virus. They uncover a conspiracy by Morgan Lansdale, head of the FBC, to increase FBC funding through collaboration with the terrorist organization Veltro. This game introduces the BSA, which plays a significant role in subsequent games. In March 2009, Chris Redfield, as part of the BSAA, flies to Africa with his partner Shiva Alamar to stop the illegal sale of a bioweapon. The Kajuju populace has already been infected with an advanced version of the mind-controlling parasite seen in RE4. This story is on a larger scale than past Resident Evil titles, although Chris also embarks on a more personal mission to find his missing partner Jill Valentine. In this game, Albert Wesker's latest sinister plot is also unveiled, and Jill, who had been under Wesker's mind control, is rescued. Resident Evil Revelations 2, which takes place between the events of RE5 and RE6, begins in 2011. Claire Redfield and Moira Burton, Barry Burton's daughter, working for the NGO TerraSave, are abducted at a party and taken to the desolate same island. They encounter the afflicted, mutated humans driven mad by torturous experiments. An unseen woman calling herself the Overseer watches them through cameras, explaining that their wristbands register fear. Barry Burton, searching for his daughter, arrives on the island and encounters Natalia Korda, a mysterious little girl with the ability to sense monsters. They eventually confront the Overseer, who is Alex Wesker, Albert Wesker's sister. Alex plans to transfer her consciousness into Natalia and utilizes the Ouroboros virus. Resident Evil 6, taking place 3 years after RE5, is an action-driven adventure narrating a broader and more complex story. The game follows 4 interconnected campaigns featuring Leon S. Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Ada Wong, and a mercenary named Jake Muller, Albert Wesker's son. The BSAA plays a significant role in this game, as the 4 main characters work together to suppress the bioterrorist group Neo Umbrella and prevent the spread of the C-virus. Portions of the story involve U.S. officials attempting to uncover the truth behind the Raccoon City events, something both Chris and Leon are strongly connected to. Chris's campaign in Edonia takes place 6 months prior to the main events in China, where he suffers from amnesia and is later found by peers in China. Umbrella's downfall led to a fragmented, global bioterrorism threat, with new organizations and viruses emerging. This signifies an evolution of the conflict from a centralized threat to a worldwide network of biological hazards. The main characters also take on new roles during this period, such as government agents or BSAA members, and face new threats. The narrative shifts from localized horrors to global action, reflecting the evolution of both the genre and the characters. These narrative changes force the characters to adapt to larger and more intricate challenges, transforming from a contained survival story to a global war against bioterrorism. The modern era, personal horrors and new beginnings, 2014 present. In 2017, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard marks a significant directional shift for the series, returning to its survival horror roots but with a first-person perspective and a focus on more personal horror. Ethan Winters, a new protagonist, is drawn to a derelict plantation in Dulvey, Louisiana, in search of his missing wife Mia. There, he encounters the Baker family, who are infected with a mold virus and possess regenerative abilities. Ethan discovers that the Bakers have been infected by a young girl named Evelyn, a bioweapon developed by an unknown corporation. By the end of the game, Chris Redfield appears and assists Ethan in defeating Evelyn. This return to survival horror and the first-person perspective, while incorporating new and more personal elements, signifies a deliberate change in the series' direction. Resident Evil Village, taking place 3 years after RE7 in February 2021, continues Ethan Winters' story. Ethan and his wife Mia live peacefully with their infant daughter Rose, until Chris Redfield and his team raid their home, kill Mia, and abduct Rose. Ethan pursues Rose to a mysterious European village governed by mutated creatures and 4 lords, Lady Dimitrescu, Beneviento, Moreau, and Heisenberg. He discovers that these lords and Mother Miranda, the village leader, derive their power from an ancient fungus called the megamycete. This game also reveals more about Umbrella's origins and Miranda's connection to Spencer. By the end of the game, it is revealed that Ethan himself has been reanimated by the mold since his initial encounter with Jack Baker in RE7 and possesses regenerative powers. Chris Redfield also plays a significant role in uncovering the nature of Miranda and the BSAA, whose soldiers were in fact organic bioweapons. The Shadows of Rose DLC, set in 2037, explores the future of Rose Winters, Ethan's daughter, and her abilities. This period represents a return to survival horror roots with a first-person perspective in RE7 and Village, while incorporating new, more personal, and even supernatural elements. This demonstrates how the series is evolving while remaining true to its core identity. New characters like Ethan and Rose carry the torch of the story, while classic characters like Chris, Jill, Leon, Claire, and Rebecca continue to be involved in the fight against bioorganic threats. This highlights the series' ability to expand its narrative and themes while maintaining connections between different generations of heroes. The Resident Evil timeline, despite the apparent complexities arising from non-linear releases and narrative revisions, presents a coherent and deep narrative. This timeline begins with the ancient and personal roots of horror in the early 20th century with Mother Miranda, progresses through the founding and catastrophic downfall of the Umbrella Corporation, which inevitably led to the Raccoon City outbreak, and then moves into an era of global bioterrorism and fragmented threats after Umbrella's collapse. Finally, the series returns to more personal horrors and survival roots, while introducing new characters and driving the story into an uncertain future. This video demonstrates how every event, character, and virus in this expansive world is interconnected, forming an interwoven web of horror and survival. From the early experiments with a progenitor virus to global outbreaks and supernatural threats, Resident Evil has consistently shown its ability to evolve the survival horror genre while maintaining its core themes of greed, power, and human resilience against darkness. Despite the conclusion of some storylines, the fight against bioorganic threats continues, and the legacy of this franchise continues to expand, promising new horrors and deeper narrative connections in the years to come.
Rose! Shh. Shh. It's all right, Rose. It's all right.